Good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing? Good. Well, we have a fun panel today. I'm excited to invite you guys in this fireside chat with UCLA MBA 2010 alum Rebecca Mall. She is the CMO of Skydance Media. And quite an illustrious career. I feel like you've done it all as head of industry at Google for entertainment. She was the co-president of marketing at Paramount Pictures, was a marketing executive at Endeavor
But before I went to business school, I was in creative. I also started, I see David Cooley here and I laugh. For those students who work with David Cooley, David had to completely redo my resume because my resume was like meet with writers, which isn't real. There's no real skill. I mean, there's a ton of skill, but the idea that then you're going to translate that into a meaningful marketing role is challenging.
Yeah. And now the CMO of Skydance, and maybe that's a good place for us to start. Tell us a little about Skydance because it's a unique one in that it's both production and a studio.
Skydance is. How many of you have heard of Skydance in this room? Okay. A lot of this, So you've seen Skydance before Top Gun, before Mission Impossible, before Transformers, maybe the Atom Project or Reacher. Skydance is a unique studio production company hybrid, if you will. What makes a studio is that you have financial backing to make your own content, which we do. What makes us a production company is that we rely on third-party distributors. So we make content, sometimes that we fully pay for and sometimes that we do not fully pay for, but it is distributed by Apple, Netflix, Amazon, Paramount, Sony. There's been a Warner film. There's been a Disney film. So we rely on other distributors. And that's sort of what makes Skydance. We also have a gaming division. Some of that gaming division we directly distribute. We have an animated division led by the incredible and incomparable John Lasseter, who founded Pixar. And we distribute that through Netflix.
Tell us a little bit about your role as the CMO.
I will. I'd like to say that I think my role at Skydance truly is the culmination of all of my years of experience. And for those of you who don't know what Darnell does, Darnell is incredibly impressive and an incredible partner for those of us in marketing. And he brings much of our content to life. And we are very reliant on his company. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Skydance is, because we are sort of one of one, we are in a unique situation in the marketplace in that I'd like to say we sort of carry a big stick in the most wonderful way. When we bring our content to Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Paramount, most of the time the content is already packaged. Do you guys know what it means to package something? So you're not putting us on as a producer. Sometimes in film and television, the distributor studio comes up with an idea and they need to put a producer on the idea to maybe go to set, to manage everything. We come to market with a fully baked movie or a fully baked television show. We try not to announce things until they're totally baked, but like we announced a show at Apple called Neuromancer with a wonderful showrunner named Graham Rowland. We had gotten the rights to the book. We set up the writer, showrunner. We were just waiting to cast it, but we will cast it. So because we come with a full package, we also have a lot of oversight on how it goes to market. Now, where it gets tricky is that when you rely on a distributor, which we do and we love, and you guys are all very lucky to be listening to Ted Sarandos this afternoon, who is amazing. We do rely on their staff and their choices and their priorities. And a lot of my job is to make sure that we are the priority, which we often are, frankly, because of the talent level with whom we work. We work with Ryan Reynolds. We work with Tom Cruise. You are not going to put Ryan Reynolds' film, as your 5th biggest movie of the year. If you work with Ryan Reynolds, that's, that's the biggest movie probably on your platform. And the tricky part, and where a lot of my relationships come to play and my background and my knowledge, is navigating the media, the PR, the timeline, the dating. I have to have a very clear point of view of the project and how it's going to be received by the audience, because the distributor has, Netflix makes 50 movies a year, down from 70. We're 2 of them. How do I make sure that my 2 are the most well taken care of, with the best possible partnerships, the best date, the best partners in terms of agencies? And I also have to know the agencies, I have to know the DNA and what makes it marketable so that I can help guide. We also have hard movies. We were just talking about feathered fishes. We have some movies that are not, or television shows that are really tough to market. It's really easy when you are sitting on your couch. Why did they choose that? What a dumb trailer. I'm telling you, 900 meetings went into this dumb trailer.
Yeah.
And I feel that way sometimes too.
And 900 versions of the trailer before the one got chosen.
Correct. So that's my job, is really oversight, but from a little bit of a distance. I probably talk to the partners 3 or 4 times a day. We have daily meetings bringing these projects to life. But again, in this role at Skydance, I don't run execution, whereas at Paramount I did.
Yeah, and that's a super unique perspective you're able to bring, because you were the co-president of marketing at Paramount, where you worked with producers, where you worked with production companies, where you worked with different talents to kind of bring those things to life. When you're working on your projects, what are some of the priorities for you when you're thinking about the marketing specifically?
Yep. Okay, so the big question, I just want to ask to this room, how many of you guys have an Apple TV Plus subscription? Okay, how many of you do not? It's about half and half.
Yeah.
Just break my heart. Okay, well, so
That's higher.
that way higher than the general population. Oh my God. That's a discussion for another day. Though some of my favorite content is on Apple, so it's a very complicated situation. Okay, so when I was in business school in 2010, or 2008 to 2010, Netflix was around. Mm-hmm. I think, when did Maisel come out? When did Prime Video launch?
14, 15?
I think it's 2013.
Yeah, so we had talked about it, but it wasn't out yet. So marketing back in the glory days, can I swear? It was fucking awesome.
You could swear.
You just bought shit on TV.
Yeah.
It was so great. You would test a trailer. The trailer worked. People still went to the movies.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Today, that is not the case. If you think about who's watching One Day here on Netflix, I watch. Okay, interesting that you guys did not watch it. Somebody yell out the last show you watched on Netflix. Love is Blind. Although You Cannot See. Lovely, love that show. Anybody have a movie they watched on Netflix? Rebel Moon. Anyone else? Okay. But name a movie that was out in the theaters this week. Dune. Great. So, what would you say? Marley. Mm-hmm. They did a great job. So did Dune. Dune, I have an interesting story on that one. There was some pressure and then I'll get back to the original question. There was some pressure on Dune to move during the actors' strike. And the marketers at Warner, with so much logic and intelligence, but bravery, said, no. We need Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet in matching, what were those outfits?
Yeah, they're like jumpsuits.
Jumpsuits.
Yeah.
Right? Because that is how we're going to break through.
Yep.
And break through they did.
Yeah.
And they were so right. And I give that team a ton of credit. Okay, so this is a microcosm of what it is like to market in the world of streaming. Now, the truth is, more people are going to watch insert random movie on Netflix on the globe than they will Marley. But it is a lot easier to market Bob Marley because you have a lot more money. And I remind those of you who are new to this industry or want to be in marketing or want to work at a streamer or a studio. When you work at a studio on a film, This does not go for TV, so we'll take TV out. You work on one film with one P&L. That means that all of the costs that go into the advertising are tied back to the film. That means there is actually a budget for marketing on that film. And that actually affects the waterfall. And the waterfall is how people get money on the back end, how you recoup costs, how you pay out Tom Cruise, or how you pay out Skydance, or how you pay out Margot Robbie, insert name. What happens in streaming is there is no P&L. There is no budget. There is no reason, if somebody wanted to put out All the Light We Cannot See, Netflix does not need to put anything against the marketing. That is not built into the DNA of the project because they have a slate strategy, and which is much more like how broadcast television worked. And in broadcast TV, even still today, there's sort of the winner-loser strategy where you work on 2 and you ignore 10. That fundamental difference has changed everything in marketing. Because if you do not have to put money against a project, and you have 1 out of every 6 human beings on planet Earth who come into your door every single day, like on Netflix, there becomes a question about the value of marketing. Now, I am a marketer. I believe deeply in the value of marketing, and part of my job at Skydance is to make sure that our partners believe deeply. I have a fundamental belief that familiarity breeds affinity. It is the basic tenet of the human experience. It is why birds of a feather flock together. It is why tribal behaviors are so prevalent in today's day and age, because when we see something we know, we like it more. Yeah. Right? It's like really common sense, and yet it's a really big challenge in marketing. But it is why I would say so much of what I do is tied to the right message in media, because if you do not push out marketing and you rely entirely on organic messaging, things do not feel as special. We eat dinner at restaurants because we think the food tastes better. Whether it does or doesn't, I don't know, but it's an emotional choice. And that's how I feel about making decisions. When you're sitting on your couch, am I going to go to a movie? Am I going to watch on Netflix? Your experience is different if you have been marketed to. And so much of that logic is actually contrary to much of the business goals of many of our partners. And finding that middle ground is very complicated.
Yeah, I mean, the incentivization for Netflix, I mean, when you go buy a movie ticket, when you go buy a ticket to go see Dune, you're spending more dollars.
But it's going back to Dune.
And it's going back to Dune. But when you watch something on Netflix, you don't pay more or pay less. You pay whatever your monthly subscription is. And so every single project isn't recouping anything really. In terms of monetary value. So the business goals get really tricky.
I mean, how many print looks do you make for a theatrical release?
Oh my goodness. So yeah, so the work I do, I work at Bond, which is a creative agency here in town. We do key art, so the posters, and we do trailers.
They are he's being humble, but they are the premier print agency. And they have now, because of Darnell, have really taken a bite out of social and digital.
Yeah, we did Dune, which is out this week. And so a lot of the artwork you see on billboards and buses and all of that. And we probably did 200 pieces of art in round 1. And I think we did 60 rounds, maybe. And so every campaign that you see has thousands of pieces of beautiful art that will never see the light of day.
Okay, now how many do you do on a streaming title?
Oh, not that many.
Not even close?
Not even close.
It's like on a given theatrical campaign, you'd maybe make 40, 30-second spots.
Yeah.
On a streamer, you make 6. It is a fundamental difference, and it changes how we as consumers feel about these projects. And part of my fundamental belief is to kind of change that, because I actually think the quality is no different. It is how you feel before you go.
Yeah, one of the reasons I've always admired your perspective as a marketer is because of the way that you've come up. so many of the leaders in marketing across different studios that are wildly talented might have a more traditional background of maybe key art or AV, what they'll call creative advertising. But you came up through digital, much like myself, and I feel like that gives you a unique perspective to how you think about marketing.
Digital and an MBA.
Yeah.
And an MBA.
Talk a little bit about that and how your digital background influences the way that you think about marketing.
I will. I first just want to say that because I spent the first 6 years of my life as a television junior executive. Then I went to business school to change career paths. Just to give you I graduated from college and I moved to Los Angeles. I spent some time traveling. I moved to LA on September 10th, 2001.
Wow.
It was rough. I mean, my first year out of college was absolutely hideous. I was depressed the whole year. It was awful. I got my shit together. I got a great job, all the things. Then the second writer's strike happened, people started losing their jobs. It was awful. And that's when I decided to go to business school because I knew that I wanted to have something that I could hold on to if the world collapsed again. While I was in business school, we had a total financial collapse. So I was actually going to business school thinking I was going to leave entertainment. But what happened was that in 08, 09, and early 2010 is essentially low-hanging fruit got the job. So I started working my second year in business school at Disney in a strategy group, and I was absolutely miserable and I hated it so much. But it was because Disney wanted people who could just jump right in. There was no, in a given year, usually 15 consulting firms come to campus. I think in 2009, 2010, maybe 6. My husband, by the way, I'm a big UCLA Anderson person. I met my husband here. I wouldn't have my 9-year-old twins if I didn't go here. And I met somebody who I then worked with for 15 years who came with me to Paramount, came with me to Google. So this place changed my life. But after I was at Disney for about 9 months and really miserable, there was one job at Google. And this was Google in 2010. We had just bought YouTube. At the time, digital was... You weren't even in digital yet, were you in 2010?
We were barely digital. I think Twitter had launched in 2008, 2008, and that's when we started our company.
We were 3% of a media plan.
Yeah.
To give you a sense, digital is probably 50% now, at least. And certain campaigns more. I got this one job at Google. Google at the time was 20 people in Los Angeles. Now it's over 2,000. It's wild. But I really jumped in because digital in the early days, if you understood statistics and you could do a little back of the envelope analysis, you actually had a leg up in digital because you could read the data and help inform campaigns. Yeah. And that kind of mindset was really new at the time and really refreshing, I think, to our partners.
Yeah, it was the beauty of art and science.
Yes.
Because honestly, the truth is, for 100 years, entertainment has been built on gut. Someone said, I think, what tragedy? That big boat that sunk in the ocean. I'll make a movie about that.
Yep.
Why? Because I want to. Because I think it might work. And it did. And oftentimes they do. But more oftentimes than not, they don't.
Well, I would argue that we are sort of back to this place of the mix of art and science. I think we went too far the other direction. Sure. And there was a lot of focus on, Apple changing their cookies and not allowing a lot of, all the laws that changed into you can't be cookied all the time did change everything again. And we're sort of back to the art mixed with science. Yeah. But coming from digital, instead of one to many, you could think about marketing for entertainment as a one-to-one. Mm-hmm. And the hardest thing, I would argue, about brand advertising in general is that it is a mix of one-to-one and one-to-many. Whereas so much of, who does not buy a sweater I don't need on Instagram? I am the biggest Instagram buyer. And because that is a true one-to-one. Yeah. They know me. They know what I buy. I have been eyeing these pants. They keep on serving it to me. Watching a film or a television show think about that funnel. If you think about the marketing funnel or the decision tree you go through, any single thing in your life could totally, Oh, the babysitter bailed. I guess I'm not going to a movie. Maybe I'll watch on Netflix. Well, what am I in the mood for at Netflix? I don't know. What kind of mood am I in? There is art to it, but there's also science. And I think what made us early friends is that we were lone digital voices very early. I remember in 2000, maybe 11 or 12, sitting in a room at Disney with Assad, Bob Iger came, and we presented, I mean, this is so basic, why certain trailers don't work on YouTube. And this was, I would say about 12 years ago was when the real transition happened, that you stopped the majority of trailer viewership, even though in post-track data, they still say they saw it in the theater. The majority of trailer viewership happens online, of a television or film. Yeah. However, so many studios still made trailers to be made in a theater. And if you think about how digital advertising works, you make your decision in the first 20 seconds. So it took 5 years to get that message to those who made the actual assets. Your first 20 seconds, your first 3 seconds really matters. Yeah. And these were seismic shifts in our business.
Huge. And part of it is because ultimately the power of social, the power of digital is the ability for it to be a hyper word of mouth engine. Yeah. You have to, the ability to, instead of driving by a billboard and either ignoring it or having an opinion that you can't share, you can immediately share how you feel and why and engage in a conversation about it.
Though I will say that now that I sit where I sit, when I got to Paramount, I used to be like digital or bust. And I'm still, very pro-digital. Yeah. However, I love and worship the saying 50% of media works, you just don't know which 50%. Oh, yeah. Because I still deeply believe I'm like the biggest outdoor person you've ever met in your life. Does anyone here have children? Raise your hand if you have kids. Kids notice outdoor. Yeah. Because I always say, like, one of the big lessons for a baby is object permanence, is that something exists when you can no longer see it. And that's like a major milestone in the development of a baby's brain. Who watched Poor Things, by the way? Let's talk about a baby's brain.
Yeah, wow.
Certainly, let's hope my kids don't get like that.
Wow.
I loved that movie. So, but object permanence and outdoor are so crucial. And they are so important. Television, again, it's like that signal. Even if you don't watch it, even if you don't pay attention, even if you don't track it, there is a subliminal feel. There is a feeling you get. Oh, this is important enough that it's going to be on TV. And there is a magic in digital, outdoor, ground, grassroots marketing, whatever you want to call it, field, PR, and traditional media. And finding that balance is the challenge of our jobs.
Yeah, because you have to you no longer can convince someone and move them all the way down the funnel with a singular touch point.
Correct.
And so
there are so many more options.
There are so many more options. We're coming up on time, but I have a little bit of a lightning round.
Let's go.
You spent so many years at Paramount. Tell me about some of your favorite projects as a marketer.
My absolute favorite was Quiet Place. I was on Boss number 4. I was at Paramount I had 3 bosses get fired. I had a boss die. I mean, it was no fun. Like I always say, the ground was sour when I was there. Now it's great. I'm very close to so many people who are there and I love the company. But Quiet Place, we had no boss. So I was the number 2 in marketing and I was mostly domestic. And it was like just me and my colleague, Peter. And we said, we're going to make this movie work. Now, you would ask me, what makes movies work? What makes TV shows work? When you read a script, when you read anything, concept, high concept. If you are a marketer, it doesn't mean that things without a high concept won't work. They do. It's the challenge of a marketer. But you were like, oh my God, the sound is the bad guy? Oh my God, what a clean concept. I can do something with this. Yeah. Because the movie cost so little, the first Quiet Place, I think, cost under $20 million. We didn't have that much money, but we knew it was really going to work. We really knew, both through research and testing. And there's a lot of, at some point, you guys can go and look at what they do to find out the playability. You test for playability and marketability, and they're 2 very, very different metrics. We knew we had playability because people loved the movie. And because the clean concept, we knew we had marketability. And sometimes in your career, you put your ass on the line. And we said, we know this movie's going to work. We're going to get it there. We need more money. And we did.
Best piece of advice you got while here at UCLA?
Oh my God. I got so much of it. Be good at something. That was a good piece of advice I got. And I give this advice a lot. You don't start your career as a generalist. You start your career as a specialist. It is only later, and you start, you're really an assistant in entertainment or junior when you start. But you need to rise the ranks by being like the digital person or the social person or the PR person or the creative person. It is only at the end of your career that you get to, I hope I'm not at the end, that you get to oversee everything. Whenever people are like, I want to work in strategy, I'm like, that's not a job. Like, that's my job. That's not a junior person's job. You need to say, like, I'm going to go and do digital strategy, or I'm going to do PR strategy. Be good at something.
What's an important quality in being not just a marketer, but a leader in marketing?
You may not cut your cord that you don't get advertising. I have Hulu live TV. Okay. So like, I don't have Spectrum, but you are not allowed to not see ads. Shame on all of you if you are all like, we're cord cutters. Well, like, and you want to be marketers? Come on. I think if you want to be a leader, and look, I got my hand smacked this week, which Natalia knows. You have to understand the pain points of every part of the campaign. You cannot come in and say, like, this is so easy. You have to understand, we have a show called Big Door Prize that I love so much, but there aren't big pieces of talent in it. And that makes PR really hard. And I'm very hard on the distributor's PR team, but it's maybe not fair of me because they're not starting on third, like when you have a Ryan Reynolds. They're starting in the dugout. I'm using sports analogies. I really shouldn't. I'm like Biff Tannen on this one. But you probably don't even know what that means. That's fine. You do. But I would say you have to understand the problems before you can come in and lead and try to solve them.
What project from Skydance this year are you most excited for this room to see?
Well, this year because of the strike, everything's a little bit...
Yeah. What in production or what in pre-production are you?
We have a show, a little tiny show that we willed to get greenlit at Amazon through a lot of research, called The Runarounds, about a band of these cute 18 to 20-something-year-old boys, and they're a real band in North Carolina, in the Carolinas. One of them.
In the Carolinas.
Wilmington. Made by the guys who made Outer Banks. Mm-hmm. And it's like right in my sweet spot of YA meets music. I also love a campaign where it's only 2 quads. You're like, I don't need my dad. I don't even need my husband. I sort of like need me and then like young people. And that is really fun when you know who you're marketing to, which you don't get to do all the time.
No, definitely. We have just a couple minutes for questions, and I'm sure there's plenty of questions in the room for you. And so there's a mic coming around.
Oh, just scream. I can hear you. Oh, okay.
Hi, this is Barry Gotch, AGA Video Systems. I recently finished the executive program here at Anderson. A comment about the digital ads. I bought the new Spicy Coke because I walked by a billboard. And then in terms of the interaction with the talent, I remember back in the day, like creatives thought, oh, I can do marketing. Do they understand now that there's so much more to it?
You mean production executives? You mean those who make the movies?
People, the directors and the talent in the movies, and then the production executives. Is there an understanding of how complicated it is nowadays?
There is always, I always say there has to be some friction because out of the friction comes the light. Yeah. There are always going to be filmmakers who are incredibly precious. Mm-hmm. And I don't use precious in a negative way. This is their baby.
Yeah.
And learning that is the number one for any of you who want to go into entertainment marketing. Forget the other marketing. When it's just entertainment, you are literally dealing with somebody's child. So imagine, I do think there is more respect for how hard it is, given how hard it is to find the under 35. So I do think that has shifted with the growth of digital in particular, but there will always, I mean, look, I'm a Monday morning quarterback too. Why did they make that choice? Why would they do that? But I do think there is more respect.
Yeah. We'll take a couple
Just
more.
speak up. I mean, who cares?
Hi, my name is John Frederick, UCLA Writing for TV. I'm glad you said be good at something because I'm not into marketing. I'm a film and TV
Good,
writer.
be good at something.
Yeah. So during the gaming panel, there was a discussion about immersing players into, games and building a community. As a film and TV writer, someone who's passionate about storytelling and community, do you think there's a way to immerse the audience into the entire production process that could also be profitable and helping for marketing? Because I definitely see an avenue.
I'm a believer that you don't want people to see how sausage is made, because the actual making of film and television is fucking awful. I mean, you are on set, you're dealing with 6 days a week, on set for 12 hours. It's cold, it's awful. I think the magic is that you don't see that. And our jobs and your job is going to be to never let the audience know the tears that you cried creating something. But I really believe that. And I think we like to hear about happy sets. Seeing Oppenheimer, seeing them all out together and friends. The truth is, on a Nolan film, they were. I'm sure you've all read. They basically took scale on that movie. Yeah. There were no politics. There was a very clear. There's an alpha in that room, and it's Chris Nolan, and there's no discussion. And they had a very happy, productive set. When you hear of sets where people didn't get along, you want to see the Avengers be friends.
Mm-hmm. One quick question. John Franklin, I've worked in sports and entertainment over the years, background, PR, and marketing.
Awesome.
I saw a film at Sundance last year called Radical. Best film I've seen the last couple of years.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
It was about a teacher in Mexico and
Eugenio Derbez, did he produce that? Yeah.
An unbelievable film. It totally disappeared. It was bought, the big rage at Sundance.
Do you know who bought it? Was it Neon?
I don't think it was. No, somebody like IFC.
Oh,
And it totally
that's why.
disappeared the film in like 1 week. It was out. I saw nothing on.
Breaks your heart, doesn't it?
Even on the streaming platform. It's such an easy film to market. I'm just amazed. It was, like you said, just dumping a film. I don't know why no money was put behind this film. To me, that's the saddest thing.
Will somebody tell me who bought it?
Handle.
Was it IFC? Did somebody?
I'll have to Google it.
Somebody can Google it while we're here. But
Radical.
it happens.
Mexican film.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's why there are winners and there are losers, and it's why distribution matters. It's why media matters. But, Ted created something that on some level, the greatest democratizing of content ever in our lifetimes and maybe ever in the world is Netflix. That every single piece of content has an equal chance of being served to their 260 million subscribers, which really is about 1 billion people. And that is why, we talk a lot at our company about I know we have to go, about theatrical versus who our distributors going to be. And I am a real Netflix loyalist, because even if it isn't as, you don't have a theatrical campaign, all the things, you have access to almost 1 out of every 7 billion. I mean, it's 1 out of every 7 people on earth. So if Radical had been on Netflix, even if they hadn't marketed it, people would have found it.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Let's give a big round of applause for Rebecca Mall.
And Darnell.